There's a few ways how you can stay informed and be prepared before each major update, and these are the 3 most important considerations. Probably the biggest lifeline of any gacha game are the characters, and they tend to create the biggest buzz when it comes to Genshin Impact. And one of the things that have been predominant in every single major update announcement were the new characters like Zhongli or Hu Tao, and part of this has to do with the mystery and partially hidden information about what these characters are capable of. But even before 1.4, we at least knew when we could expect to see them show up by getting the exact release dates. However, if you're watching this video before 1.4 goes live, the player base is still in the dark and have to work with what they have seen. Thankfully, one of the great things about 1.4 update is that we know exactly how strong are the returning 5 stars are going to be, and the only uncertain link is Rosaria, which we are missing crucial information on things like damage multipliers. But even then, because she is a 4-star, there is a bit more leniency when it comes to spending your primo gems, and it won't cost as much as you would need to spend on any of the featured 5 stars. So while the odds have shifted, we are still able to work with what we have. And if you ever played other gacha games before, some of them would launch in a country like Japan, and only a year later we would get a global release, which would result in having clairvoyance on every single upcoming character if the company decides to follow the exact same release dates. However, in the case of Genshin Impact, the only country that had a head start was China during open beta, and even then, all the events and release schedules got aligned together with the rest of the world once the game got fully released to everyone. Which brings us back to the currently upcoming banners of Child and Venti, where the only bit of information we have right now is the fact that Rosaria is going to be featured together with Child, which leaves us with the question in which order they will feature the banners. One way you could answer this question would be by speculating and using clues like the recently released character trailer of Venti, which logically speaking would only make sense from marketing perspective to do this if you're gearing up to release his banner before Child and Rosaria. But then again, this could also be just a random trailer miHoYo has used to further emphasize the celebration of Windbloom Festival. Still, it's important to understand the tactics of a gacha game and how some of them are used to prevent players from preparing for upcoming characters, since it's all about capitalizing on the dopamine rush and excitement of a new or returning character coming out of nowhere. So keep this in mind and make sure to exercise caution with how much you're able to afford in the game. Finally, when it comes to characters when looking at an update like 1.4, it's been widely accepted by the community that Venti is a very strong and easy to use character that works in nearly any type of content, while our sweet child is more or less an extremely capable damage dealer that relies on swapping out to different teammates when his elemental skill is on cooldown, which gets addressed only at his last constellation. However, this should not matter to anyone who loves his concept and playstyle, and the only difference between him and Venti is that he might not be applicable to all kinds of content due to his elemental alignment. And let's not forget that those who are hyped for getting Rosaria will also be able to do so when summoning from his banner. All in all, the secrecy behind every update is growing stronger, and foresight for upcoming banners is only getting more difficult to achieve. So if your main concern is to determine when is the best time to pull, always wait until the last few days of the current banner to see if miHoYo announces any new piece of information regarding the next Wish event. One of the more useful things you can do before any major update is to go back and rewatch the live stream to pick up on any details you might have missed or haven't understood fully, and then use that opportunity to capitalize on knowledge you just obtained. And one good example was the 1.3 live stream announcement for the Dust of Azoth and how it could be used to transmute the character ascension materials you already own into different ones. And before even this change went live, you could simply save up your resin and use it for different activities if you had some spare ascension materials lying in your bag to utilize them once the update went live. And that was one of the basic ways behind the idea of re-examining what the update offers and how to prepare it in advance. But if we were to look at 1.4 as the next example, then the best method to get a rough estimation of how many primo gems you will earn during the update, even before it goes live, would be by rewatching the trailer and the live stream. And luckily, there are some passionate members in our community who put the work in for us. For example, you can get a rough estimation of free primo gems you can expect to earn during the 1.4 update, and you can check out the link in the description where it will lead you to a post on the official miHoYo forums. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this particular way of preparing is that sometimes it can actually be misleading, and that was the case with double leyline rewards we saw on the 1.3 livestream, where the data showed it was going to last for 31 days, while in reality we only got 7 days. So even though the developers do share with us the news, they are sometimes still not finalized, at least from the visual representation of the video, and obviously they do include the disclaimer that these additions are subject expect to change, so keep this in mind whenever you're checking out one of the previewed rewards. The only way we have seen everything to stay true to its representation were the official posts done on miHoYo forums and their Twitter handle. So in essence, you can rely on the community or even the source material yourself to learn about what kind of rewards or even possibly changes in activity you should expect or start doing now, but at the same time, some of the information is not always finalized, so remaining cautious can help you save up on resources as well. You've probably noticed that there's this new definition rising up in Genshin called filler update. And if you've been playing Genshin since it went live in September, then you've probably noticed one of the things that sticks out clearly from some of the updates, and that would be the residual content that we get to keep playing even after we move on to the next major update, and things like a weekly boss and ascension materials from 1.1 or an entirely new and exciting zone in 1.2 are to name the few. But even in 1.3, we got the Primo Geovishap boss, which was required for ascending Xiao and Hu Tao. And even though 1.3 didn't advance the main storyline and it kind of got categorized as filler, it still introduced new characters and even monsters to fight. But this time around, 1.4 update, besides the previewed Abyss Herald, will only have one new 4-star character, Rosaria. And if the main attraction for you is to have an experience you can have with new characters, whether it includes by simply participating in wishing events or fully committing your Primo Gems for the pity summon, the choice to do this should be more or less clear when compared to previous updates, since besides Rosaria, we already know how well Child and Venti perform, so you can use this as your advantage if your biggest concern is team building and character growth. Now obviously, we have seen a lot of content getting phased out of the game that includes the Festering Desire storyline and reward, or the Tower Defense minigame from Lantern Rites Festival, and the approach miHoYo is using here is called fear of missing out content that is extremely popular within gacha games. And that's because one of the biggest challenges for video game companies is to retain their player base, and one effective method in doing this would be by introducing seasonal or exclusive events that only last for a certain period of time. So if you're still unfamiliar with this type of content or haven't played gacha games before, you should now be able to understand and prepare for this whenever you see the news announcements about future updates. But to quickly summarize, the shroud of mystery that gets thrown on the upcoming banners is only getting bigger, so if your main concern is to prepare as many Primo Gems as you can for your favorite character, it's best to control your urges to summon during the initial days of any new banner until you can learn the exact content and date of the next one. However, if you do want to speculate, things like character teaser trailers before the banner gets announced could be an indication that this would be the next character, but it's still unclear and speculative, so your best bet would be to just simply wait and see. Now when it comes to actual reward structure and how many resources or even weapons you can expect to unlock in every update, you can scan through the trailers and live streams, or you can also rely on the community to do the work for you, so make sure to explore all the options if you're interested in staying informed and being prepared for what's to come in every update. Finally, the design direction of each update has been clear so far, and even if 1.4 won't have the most residual content, we can use this as one of logical deductions that probably what's next to come could be big. And if you'd like to explore new and exciting things, especially when it comes to stuff like unreleased Dendro elements, and you want to save up as many Primo Gems as possible, you can use something as 1.4 update as a time to stock up on even more Primo Gems instead of summoning on the upcoming banners. There's a lot of exciting things to cover about Genshin's new update, and if there's any mistakes included, make sure to check out the pinned comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and gently press the like button. For more up-to-date news, follow us on Twitter, link in the description. Thank you for watching us, and see you in the next video.